By Austin Cindric, who drives for Team Penske and also serves as a pit road reporter today in the NASCAR Xfinity Series broadcast on FS1. But Austin, before we get started with questions, if you don't mind, maybe to give us a little overview of what it's like to have some rain fill during a race weekend and kind of what your experience was there as you guys were on air for a little bit.
I'll be honest, I had a lot more fun rain filling as a TV person than I usually do as a driver. As a driver, you like cool off and, almost you don't even want to do it anymore. You're kind of over it. Like you've hyped yourself up and now I don't get to do my job. So that's what all those drivers are experiencing right now, especially for the entirety of today. But yeah, I tried to make the most of it.
All right, we'll go ahead and poll here for questions. We've got several. We'll work to get a microphone around the room. And to kick us off, we'll start with Mike Henry up front. Oh, here we go. They're getting you a mic. Where you want me? Right here, Mike Henry.
Mike Henry, NBC Sports. Your experience in this race last year was limited, but you've done some endurance type racing. Did you approach this race any differently because of the 600 miles?
I really don't think so, to be honest. I think the biggest difference is having the extra stage. It's an extra opportunity to earn points, and the fact that all stages are the same length, 100 laps for all four stages. I think really, for me, that's how I mentally separate the races as they go anyway. Even on my dash and with the feedback my team gives me, it's okay, how many laps am I doing before we have a caution, or how many laps am I doing before I get off these tires. So for me, it's actually a pretty simple race, other than the fact that it's longer than the ones we do throughout the rest of the year. So from that standpoint, it's still the same intensity that we would see on a normal 400-mile race on a mile and a half.
If we can jump ahead a few weeks, Chicago coming up, from what you know and what you've heard about that, what do you see as the biggest challenge there?
I think the biggest challenge, just like any street course, is going to be track conditions and the ability to not necessarily pass, but it's narrow quarters, and a racetrack like Circuit of the Americas, the last road course we ran on, I could screw up and go 100 feet into the runoff and keep going. And that was a race that went, primarily all green until it didn't. Whereas Chicago or any street courses, there's zero room for error. We've seen how strong and robust these cars are, but at the same time, that's why I love street course racing. But, whether if it's track blockages or, guys making mistakes, having cautions throughout the race, all types of those things, I think will be different and come into play differently than what they would on most of our road courses, because a mistake is damage. It's not, lost time.
All right, we'll get a microphone over here.
Hey, Austin, Trent with FrontStretch.com. I got a couple for you. First one is a fun one. I saw on the broadcast you guys TP'd Kevin Harvick's motor coach, and what was his reaction to that? Was he upset afterwards, or was it just in fun? And the second one, more of a serious one, with Kyle Larson announcing, he's doing the Indy 500 and all that. What are your thoughts on that, and is that a race that you would probably want to try in the future as well?
Yeah, as far as Kevin goes, I was very anti-TPing Kevin's bus when they asked about it over the second intercom or whatever. Because I have to race against him 28 more times before he retires. It's all funny for everybody else, but Tyler and I were like, it's probably not a good idea. But I guess that came from that ask came from above on doing that. So they were all in on the joke. But yeah, Kevin has a really nice bus. I could spend some days in there. That was nice. I didn't really want to leave, honestly, because we sat on pit road and got rain on the entire time. So. But from that standpoint, it was fun. I don't think it was too rough. I was more worried about the guy that was actually going to have to clean it up. I don't know Kevin's coach driver's name, but I asked him like 3 times before we started, like, you're good with this, right? Because I know you're going to be the one cleaning it up. I don't think Kevin's going to be the one cleaning it up. Let's be honest. He pays the guy. So from that standpoint, I wanted to make sure he was cool with it and he knew what we were doing. And the fact that it was raining outside, I thought it was going to be a really bad idea if we did the outside of it, because I don't know if any of y'all have TP'd anything, but a little water makes some stickage and creates a much more complicated cleanup process. as far as your Indy 500 question, there's a lot when it comes to the Indy 500 or why that race is special to me, special to my family. I just came from up there yesterday. It's certainly a race that I would want to do. I don't really see racing career complete for me without having an opportunity to do that race. Obviously, I'm 24 years old, and hopefully the completion of my racing career doesn't happen anytime soon. But I'm also very focused on what I'm doing in the Cup Series garage. Certainly want to get as good as I can and contend for championships and wins in this garage area. That's where my focus is right now. But somewhere later down the road, it's something I would want to do for sure.
All right, we're going to go ahead in the back.
Hey there. So check. Jeff Taylor with Bay Heckle Sports and WCCB here in Charlotte. So we talked about Chicago. Can you just go ahead to next week and let me ask you about what I still like to call Gateway and what that track's like and how tough to get around that?
Yeah, it was an interesting race last year with different strategy calls with whether if it's track position or 2 tires, no tires, 4 tires. We were one of the cars that ran up front most of the day and took 4 tires at the end and probably didn't weren't able to really utilize it. But it's a fun racetrack. I think the racetrack itself has done an incredible job promoting, whether if it's been the NASCAR events there or the IndyCar events. Every time you see it, they've got a full crowd, and the fan response was awesome last year. So look forward to coming back and seeing that, being a part of that. And something that probably makes that place really unique is how much shifting we're doing throughout the lap, just because you have 2 completely different corners with a really long sweeping turn 3 and 4 and a pretty tight turn 1 and 2. But the restarts were crazy because track position was so important. Whether if that was for the lead of the race, coming at the end, I thought Joey and Kyle's battle was a really classic, finish to a NASCAR race. But even throughout the pack, it's pretty wild.
All right, we'll come up front to Kelly, go to Seth, and then Claire. Kelly?
Kelly, ChronoRacer.com. Austin, 13 races into your sophomore season. Can you just assess where this 2 team is and how you feel about how things have been going?
Yeah, the last 2 months have been extremely frustrating. I think anything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong in our control or out of our control. So certainly 20th in points is not where I want to be. And my best finish in the last 2 months was on dirt, which I don't think anybody would have guessed that. So for me, I don't put the panic button down by any means. Still certainly within a points range of contending for the playoffs, and win changes anything. And I drive for a race team. I'm a driver that's capable of winning races in the Cup Series. So from that standpoint, I feel like there's been a lot of off-track things that have really progressed nicely over the last 2 months for our team that you necessarily can't see. Getting our pit crew back for this weekend, the longest race of the year, is very important. Obviously had a slip up at Kansas and had a wheel come off, and I feel really good about the guys over the wall in my car, and a lot of things that just haven't quite gone right recently, but I trust the process, and certainly driving for an incredible team. I've got a really strong group of guys, so that's where we're fortunate to have a long season. I talk about 2 months. We race every week, and it's easy to have all that compound and really weigh on you. But if you look at the other side, you look at other forms of racing, that's the majority of a season, that amount of races. So we're fortunate that we get to go to the racetrack every week and learn and continue to improve, because it is an extremely long season. And, we are at the halfway point, I believe, but still feels like we've got a long way to go, and certainly a long enough time to let things average out.
Not necessarily just for the playoffs, because a win, of course, would put you in the playoffs. But in general, do you just feel like you need to be a driver that wins at least a race this season? I mean, obviously it's going to be hard to back up the Daytona 500, right? But with the organization that you're with, do you view it as, I need to be winning races every year, regardless of whether I'm a sophomore or so on and so forth?
I can promise you wholeheartedly, I plan on showing up at the racetrack every week with the capability of win races. I drive the 2 car for Roger Penske. I feel like that's somewhat of the expectation. Obviously, I haven't been in the series for a very long time, racing against guys that are, the best at what they do, and they've been the best at what they do for a long time. But that's what makes this enjoyable for me, is to be out and be able to compete with the best, and on certain days to be the best.
All right, Seth, we get a microphone to Seth, and then we'll go up to Claire. He's in the back right there. There you go.
Seth Egger, KickingTires.net. Austin, you mentioned the extra stage in the 600 with the emphasis on stage points. Is the 600 one of the more important regular season races now?
Yeah, it's certainly 10 more points that you wouldn't be able to get on any other week. So, being able to emphasize a good race is important. So, just from a numbers side, yeah, I'd say it could be one of the most important regular season races as far as an opportunity to, get points or separate yourself or be able to maximize having a good day, a good car, good execution. Yeah, that pays off, and 25% more than any other race we have.
All right, Claire, you raise your hand right there. There you go.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. With your heritage and your interest in Indy, what are your habits, viewing habits, plans for paying attention to the Indy 500?
I was very lucky last week that our garage opening schedule was so long between our on-track schedule last week that I have not missed a single lap that they have done this month in May up in Indy. I got to go there yesterday for Carb Day. I had the first time in my life to be at the Coke 600 last year, and I basically just got to the track as early as possible so I could watch the entire race and not be disturbed. The team knows me well enough to know to not schedule any appearances until the race is over, so they were good about that last year. Hopefully the same this year. But I'm looking at you, Taylor. I love that race, and it's such a classic event, and the fact that you get to have those three races, Monaco, Indy, and Charlotte, all on the same day. Hopefully weather permitting, but it's been really cool to kind of see how this side of the racing world views it. When I've been in Indy all my years as a kid, the Coke 600 is the after party, and that's you finish watching the 500 and you're sunburnt, and you sit down and watch Coke 600 and let the sun set. But it's kind of interesting being on the other side for I guess the second time in my life.
So do you get up early for Monaco and watch that too? And then when you're watching the Indy 500, not disturbed, are you in motor coach land, or are you with your engineers? Some of the engineers in the garage are way into it because they came from, IndyCar racing.
I think our NASCAR team, at least our core group, has benefited from my presence with their IndyCar knowledge has definitely grown. Since even last week, just having it on in the Penske bus or whatever else, and talking to guys about the qualifying format, how practice has gone, and this and that, and certainly those guys are interested, whether it's Joey or Ryan or Harrison or some of the other crew chiefs and mechanics or whatever else. They've started to come to me as far as asking questions, but it's fun because we do all have that under the same roof at Team Penske, but sometimes there isn't enough crossover to really fully understand or appreciate what is so different, but yet so similar about what we all get to do. But certainly something I'm passionate about, and looking forward to watching the race this Sunday. If I'm up, I'm up. It's not. Well, when I was a kid, like we got in Rogers police escort from downtown, which like if we're supposed to leave at 6:30 in the morning, we have to be there at 5:30 because if RP walks out at 6:15, you're getting left. So we were very early and all crammed in my dad's car. And so I would get to the track with plenty enough time. And so Monaco is going to be in all the garages and everything. So usually we'd watch, Monaco from inside the garage area because we'd be there way before the traffic would start. But so those were really my only traditions, watching Monaco. But I'm not a diehard Formula One fan by any means, but I certainly enjoy watching it. So if it's on, it's on. If it's not, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
All right, we're going to go to Mike here in the middle, please.
Mike Solarte, Spectrum News 1. You kind of alluded to it, working the broadcast side and the rain delay and how tough that is. You could be looking at this again tomorrow as a driver. What is the game plan for you in terms of how do you wait these things out, and how do you fill your time? And because you never know when the call is going to come to say get to the car and get going. So how do you try to stay loose, focused, and wait out the rain?
Yeah, the difficult part, and we've had it a number of times this year, is that, we're going on track for the first time. If practice gets rained out today, which, kind of looking likely, we'll be on track for the first time, and for a 600-mile race, you're kind of stuck with it. So that kind of looms over you, but I try to be somewhat of a logical person in the sense that, worrying about it's not going to change anything. You've had all week to think about it. You've had all week to prepare. So why are you trying to study for a test that's happening in 5 minutes or an hour? So I've done all my prep work. My team's done all our prep work and tried to show up with the best, third cell Menards Ford Mustang as we possibly can. And whenever the race happens, it happens. So I think actually having practice might add, more stress for me, because you're when you have practice, you have the opportunity to go backwards as much as you do to go forwards, if not more of an opportunity to go backwards than you do to go forwards. So you have more stress about, did I screw this up or not? It's kind of easy going into a blind because you don't know anything. You haven't screwed anything up because you haven't even started. So it is what it is, and I just hope we can get it in tomorrow, or at least in a time that everybody can enjoy it.
All right, I hate to wrap. I know we're not through all the questions, but I want to stay on time here because we're pretty stacked as far as availability. So thank you, Austin, for coming in. We really appreciate you spending time with us, and good luck tomorrow.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.